happy hump day and welcome to Wednesday. I hope you're having a fantastic week, no matter where you are in the world. So, horrible bosses, bad bosses. If you think about Hollywood, they've made an industry out of movies, TV shows, stories about bad bosses. Catherine Parker, Montgomery Burns, Miranda Priestly, Gordon Gekko. I'm sure you can name a few horrible bosses from the silver screen. But of course, we have horrible bosses, sometimes in our working life. And the question to consider when you're faced with the situation of working with someone who you really don't enjoy working with. Now, they might not be horrible, they just might be average, or perhaps they really are at the worst end of the scale and they're totally narcissistic. So do you just hope, sit back and wait for it to get better? Do you just sit around waiting and hoping that they leave before you leave? Do you throw the towel in? Or do you sit back and try and work out what it is that you can do? So I'm going to give you a number of suggestions to think about if you're working with someone who doesn't bring out the best in you. Firstly, think long term. Now, if I reflect back through my corporate career, there were occasions where I worked for people who weren't nice to work with. And yet if I think about what I'm doing now, and I think about the things that I did through my corporate life, I wouldn't be where I am if I hadn't had those experiences. So ask yourself, what am I learning? And is this setting me up for something that's bigger and better? And therefore, does it make it worthwhile to stick it out for a while? Secondly, mind your health. Because working for a bad boss, it will take its toll on your mental health, your well-being, and it can impact your self-confidence. So whilst it can make sense to stick around for a while, if it is fundamentally impacting you psychologically, physically, mentally, then it's time to go. And it's time to find ways to make sure you're taking care of yourself in terms of exercise, meditation, eating well. So ask yourself, are you taking enough care of yourself? Number 3, build a support base. Because when you're faced with a challenging and difficult time at work, it helps to have friends. It helps to have people that you can rely on and ask for support, ask for guidance and direction. People who can help you perhaps see things from a different perspective. So ask yourself, who are your supporters? Who are the people around you who are helping and supporting you? And are you putting enough time and energy into that network? Number 4, and this one can be hard, but it's worth doing. Assume good intent. Just because you've got a bad boss, it doesn't mean that they're a bad person. And perhaps they too are in a really challenging situation and they just don't know how to get out of it. Brené Brown, in her book Dare to Lead, talks about the importance of really assuming good intent, and how if you can assume that someone is doing their best, that can shift how you see and how you relate to them. That doesn't mean they avoid accountability, and it doesn't mean you let people walk all over you, but you set boundaries and you're sitting back and you're going, what are the boundaries that I need to put in place so that I can be sitting in my integrity, be clear about my intentions, my words and my actions, and that I'm setting those boundaries in the context, so I'm making it clear about what's okay and what's not okay. And so ask yourself, what would you do differently and how would you think differently about your boss and how they behave if you made the assumption that they were doing their best? And what boundaries do you need to put in place to be able to do that? Number 5, protect yourself. This is important. Behaviours, they're infectious. Emotions are infectious. So if you are working for a bad boss, are you absorbing how they're behaving and how they're thinking and reacting and treating others? All the research shows that if you've got a bad boss, that behaviour can trickle down to others. You want to make sure it's not rubbing off on you. So ask yourself, what are your core values? What do you stand for and how are you living those out each and every day at work? Number 6, search for learning. You know, there's a famous quote which is, I'm thankful for all the difficult people in my life. They have shown me exactly who I don't want to be. So whilst you're in a difficult situation, you will be learning things. Search for that learning. Understand, how does that influence how you think, how you process, how you see the world? How does it help you better understand other people, but also how you're reacting and interacting with other people? So ask yourself, what have you learnt today? Number 7, embrace corporate karma. Eventually, most horrible bosses, they get moved on. They self-implode. So there will come a time. So rise above the noise, rise above what's going on, and most importantly, don't let them change who you are. So ask yourself, what do you need to maintain your sense of self and to maintain your resilience? And lastly, vote yourself off the island. There comes a time, and I know this can be really hard to do because everyone needs a job, but there may come a time when working in that environment is taking such a toll that the best thing you can do is to find another place to be. Because if it's impacting your mental health and well-being in such a way that it's debilitating, they can have long-term consequences. So ask yourself, is this role impacting me? Is it debilitating, stopping me from moving ahead and being who I need to be? Because if that's the case, then it's time to start looking at the steps you need to put in place so that you're making the decision to leave. With all of this, 8 big tips, lots of things to think about, but this is you taking control. This is you going, this situation is bad, I don't enjoy it, but how do I make it better? Now, if you're looking for more on all of this, my latest book, Bad Boss, What to Do If You Work for One, You Manage One, or You Are One, is out now. Go to the website, thebadboss.com.au, because there's heaps of extra freebies and value that you can get right now if you go and buy the book. Take care, have a wonderful week, look after yourself, and I'll see you next week.